That's 833-390-7728. And I'm going to leave that number up there. Right. So sometimes this class, when we're talking about different aspects of crisis, can cause us to feel a certain way. I want to talk about triggers in a minute, but it can help. This information sometimes can cause us to go into a negative slant. So I want to leave that warm line number up there just in case you need to call, just in case you're triggered. Okay. So crisis education. First thing I want to tell you about crisis is it doesn't matter who your daddy is, how much money you make, where you live, what your education is. None of that stuff matters. Everybody goes the same way. Everybody goes through crisis the same way. And that same way is we get triggered, we escalate, we can go into crisis, and then we go into the recovery phase. Right? So it's a process that no matter who we're through, we walk through it the same way. The cool thing about learning about the process of crisis is that we can interrupt it at any spot. And if I'm going along in crisis and I do something that stops the flow of that crisis, I don't have to go there. I don't have to lose what I've lost in the past. That's my goal. I got a lot of really nice stuff today, inside and out. And I don't want to lose it. When I go to this, I've got the potential of losing a lot. Right? Okay. So what we're going to talk about is we're going to define crisis. We're going to talk stages of crisis. And then we're going to understand how these stages look in real life. I appreciate theory. I love it. I loved going to school. But if it's not a real life experience, it doesn't do me as much good. Right. So we're going to talk about how to deal with crisis in a day-to-day way, in a realistic way, that we can figure this out, that we can walk through the stages more easily. All right. So the definition of crisis: a situation or period in which things are very uncertain, difficult, or painful, especially time when action must be taken to avoid complete disaster or breakdown. That's what the dictionary says, right? My definition: when everything spins out of control, right? You remember that merry-go-round when you were, it's got the metal on it, you ran and ran and ran and tried to fling your friends off, right? Oh, that may have just been me. But that's what I think of when I think of crisis. It's that merry-go-round. And it starts slow, but it gets quicker, doesn't it? It goes faster and faster and faster. And when it's going really fast, it's hard to hang on. What we want to do is slow that bad boy down, right? So we can get off safely. So we can jump off without having to lose the things we may have lost in the past. Things like relationships, jobs, homes. Those things that are important to us, and that when we lose them, they affect our lives in a big, big way. So when things spin out of control, right? Crisis can be an opportunity to growth. Y'all buy that? Change and growth? I know for me that that when I hit my crisis, my bottom with substance use, that crisis gave opportunity. It gave me the opportunity to decide what I wanted to do with my life. Did I continue to do the same thing over and over and over again like I'd done in the past? Or do I want to shift? Do I want to take this information? Do I want to the skills that I've got and block that crisis? We also learn so much about ourselves, about life, about how things work when we go into crisis, especially about ourselves. Me anyway, I was given the opportunity to do something different at the point of my bottom. I was very lucky. I don't know. I think a lot of us have that opportunity. Sometimes we just don't see it. Right? So Christ can be an opportunity for change and growth. It is the truth. As a result of that pain, we may be motivated to do something different. That was my experience anyway. I finally got the motivation as a result of that crisis that I went through and didn't do well with. Right? So what we're going to talk about today is the stress model of crisis. It starts with the, hey Darlene, it starts with the trigger phase, goes to the escalate phase when things begin to get more tense, then into the crisis phase, the recovery, right? No matter how fast the merry-go-round spins, it will eventually slow down. So we do get into recovery. It may not be wonderful, happy recovery, but we eventually stop fighting. And we eventually get too tired to keep going. So recovery does come. The first phase of the stress model is the trigger phase. We all know, well, those of you that have taken this class before know, triggers are people, places, or events that may make us sad or upset in some way. That's what Marielle says. Can change us to make us sad or upset in some ways. Right? It's a shift in us. That's what a trigger does. It says during the trigger phase, an event occurs that produces a change in us mentally, physically, and emotionally. Right? When I think of a trigger, just how my mind works, I think of junior high. Your Wheaties, you did your homework, you're on your way to your favorite class. You're just whistling a tune and everything, just walking along in the hallway. Somebody comes up behind you, grabs your underwear, does that. What's that called? It's called a wedgie. Hey, Roberta, it's a wedgie. And that's what a trigger is. I was doing, an event occurred, and now I'm not doing so well. I was doing well. I got the wedgie, emotional, physical, mental wedgie that shifted me into a different way of thinking, right? So that's right, wedgie, Roberta. And triggers are different for every person. Y'all familiar with the phrase sweet pea? This is always my favorite story. Sweet pea. You call people sweet pea if you sweet pea, how you doing? Or thank you, sweet pea. Just a nice name, right, that you call people. Well, I was talking to her and I said, well, sweet pea, don't you worry about it. Well, her face turned red and her fist clenched. She began to tell me how I was not to call her sweet pea. Well, she scared the crap out of me, first of all. And calmed down. I asked her what that was about because it was so out of character. And she said that someone who had abused her when she was a kid used to call her sweet pea. Trigger. Now you can call me sweet pea all day and it doesn't bother me. But to call her sweet pea was a big event that caused her to change. Obviously, red face, clenched fist. She began to shift into a trigger mode. Right? So triggers are different for each person, and they are events that cause us to change. Okay, who we got here? We got Darlene and Roberta and Sharon. Good morning, y'all. That is so cool. I want you all to put in a sentence or two, just a trigger of yours, something that triggers you. We've got different kinds of triggers. And the more we know about our triggers, the better off we are. If I can figure out what my triggers are, I can avoid them, I can adjust to them, right? I have a problem with crowds. So I don't need to do Concord Mills at Christmas. It is just not what I need to do. If I've got issues, if crowds trigger me, I don't need myself up that way. The more about me, the more I know about what causes me to change, the more likely it is that I'll be more successful. Kim says people arguing. Absolutely. Getting loud. That can be a big one for a lot of us, right? So our triggers come from someone. That is an example, Kim. People arguing, people getting loud, and people threatening. All those things can be a big trigger to us. And there's a reason for it. There's a why behind that what. Every trigger we have is based on an experience. Chances are a negative experience that caused us some kind of pain, some kind of angst. So every time we go through something, it's a potential trigger creator, right? Roberta says, people cussing at her. Absolutely. Certain words. Oh my goodness, Darlene's because she was, there was a stampede. It was that is a major trigger. Somewhere where there's a lot of people and all of a sudden people go running, that is going to affect Darlene. That is going to trip her out. That's what happens. Where something happens and we change dramatically, right? There's different kinds of triggers. There's situational triggers, sudden unplanned events, things like natural disasters. Katrina was a natural disaster that happened. The people in New Orleans were fine. The storm through and everything changed, didn't it? Everything changed. Loss of a support person, another situational trigger. When we lose someone, either, they go on to a different place, they move, they get a different job, or they pass away. Loss of support people can be a major event in our lives, right? Personal triggers, and these are based on experience. These are based on that why behind the what, right? Things like certain people. There are certain people that trigger me, that make me feel uncomfortable to the max, right? And when I get around these people, it's not good for me. It's not good. So I need to know the people in my life that are triggers. Places, different. Those of us that had difficulty with substances, going back to those old neighborhoods, they talk about old playgrounds. And I don't want to go there. I don't want to go to these places that are going to cause me anxiety. We're not going to go to these places that to be afraid or angry. So I can, if I know the place that trigger me, I don't have to go there anymore. And if I do have to go there, I can get stronger. Take someone with me. Things, memories, thoughts that come up, songs. I want you to think about it. Music. Think about that music that just gets you wired up and ready to party. Oh hell yes, right? That music that is so intense, it causes us to be very, very sad. That music that affects us. Music is a powerful trigger. We're not done talking about it yet either. It is a powerful trigger. It can take us to a absolutely. Let's see. Oh, I'm up here. Anniversaries, holidays, those kind of things can affect us greatly. Having to be around certain people or not being able to be around certain can affect us. Right? So these anniversaries of people's passing, anniversaries of a difficult time, of a tragedy. These anniversaries, not only the day, but lead that day. If I know that a state triggers me, I can prepare for that day. If I've got something on in October 27th, if something is an anniversary on October 27th, I can begin October 1st preparing for that, getting myself strong, right? So that I don't have to walk through that scared or angry. I can walk through it with a friend, with a family member. I can walk through these times in my life that are so difficult, right? So plan ahead. Different sights, smells, tastes, touch, all those different things, our senses can significantly trigger us. Medical triggers are another one. Illness, injury, poor health, all those things. If I'm sick, I am more likely to be in a negative frame of mind, right? Because my illness is making me feel that way. I don't like it, and it changes me. Another thing could be medication changes or side effects under medical. Those things can affect us as well. Let's see what we got in chat here. Okay, let's see. Oh, Darlene says men having strokes triggers her too. And that's based on a personal experience that she said. Financial triggers is another big one. Not enough money to meet our needs, not enough money to pay our bills, not enough money to get enough food, enough housing, enough safety that we can take care of ourselves, right? So lack of sufficient money. I don't have enough money can trigger me. Now with me, having too much money on me, I was one of those chicks that back in the day, I would cash my paycheck and put it over my visor on Friday, and by Saturday, I didn't have rent money, right? Because it's just too easy. Yeah, and that led me to a lot of interesting behaviors when I had cash. So I would do things that I couldn't normally afford that were not necessarily good for me. So having too much cash, today I only carry a certain, because I can get triggered. I can come up with some festive ideas when I've been triggered. So I eliminate that opportunity carrying a little bit of cash on me, just enough to get something for lunch, just enough to get whatever it is I need that day, right? So I set myself up for success by not carrying enough money, right? So too much money, not enough. Triggers tend to be things that are not in moderation, right? They're too intense. So those are the different kind of triggers. And I love you all. Eric's in the house. Woohoo! He's got away. All these different things can trigger us, and we want to be aware of them, because the more I know about me, the better off I'm going to be in making decisions, to make those decisions that we need today. So the more I know about what triggers me, the more I could avoid it or adapt to it. Avoid Concord Mills. Go to Walmart at 3 a.m. around Christmas. Nobody's there. Great. So triggers are a big part of the crisis process. Is actually the very start, the very thing that begins those states, right? That begins that merry-go-round, go round and around and around. It starts with the next thing is the escalation phase, right? A person's emotional, mental, or physical state becomes increasingly more intense. It builds. It builds. All right. Trigger happens and we begin to change. A little bit at a time, it gets more intense, right? We start with warning signs, the early warning signs. We may do something that lets us and other people know that something's going wrong. Something is not working in our lives at that moment. And we change. With the early warning signs, we change slightly. There's a little change in us. But it's like things like how we look. I may frown. I may clench my fists, right? I may turn red. I may turn pale. Those things that that change in me when I've been triggered. Get a stomach ache or get my shoulders being tight can cause me pain. I may pace. I may get very agitated, or I may be very lethargic. I may just want to rest, and that's all I can do. It's extremes, isn't it? Patient is different. Sometimes we get quiet, sometimes we get loud. But it is that early warning sign that help us understand that something is going on, that something is going on at that moment. And if I can, like it said, lets us and other people know something's going wrong. If I can identify those early warning signs, I am much more likely to be able to stop the crisis. I'm going to be much more able to do that can help shift me back into a better frame of mind, right? Okay, so those are the warning signs. How do you change, my people in the crowd? How do we change Eric, Roberta, Darlene, Sharon, Kim? How do we change? When I am triggered, what happens in my body? What happens in my mind? Right? What happens to my emotions? These things change, even if it's subtle. Right? Even if it's subtle. You may have heard, girl, I saw your face from across the room and I knew it was going to get ugly. We shift. We change physically, mentally, and emotionally. Right? And those are our early warning signs. What changes in you? What changes in you? Do you have pain? Does your stomach flutter? Do you feel yourself getting? Do you say things you normally? Are you sarcastic, cruel? Things we say, things we do can indicate to us that something's going on, right? It's important that we share our knowledge with our support people, right? Because sometimes I know when I'm triggered, right? That song may come on at work. I'm not aware of it. It's in the distance. I'm not even, all of a sudden I'm pissed off because it reminds me of someone that hurt me in the past, right? I may not even be aware of that, but somebody may tell you, every time you talk about someone, it puts you in a bad space, right? So when we think of certain people or certain things, we begin to shift. We begin to The second part, hey Sharon, arguing, interrupting when I'm speaking, and violence to you. Absolutely. Those are big ones. Those are big ones. People, I like interrupting when you're speaking. I love that one, Sharon, because it shows a lack of respect, doesn't it? And that is a major trigger for a lot of us, for most of us, I'd say. All right, so then we get into the advanced trigger, or the advanced warning signs. feel right before we go into crisis. This is what I call the 2-minute warning. 2 minutes before you're going to lose, before it's going to blow, right? Before we go into that crisis phase. So these advanced warning signs know we're in trouble. I am in trouble when I get to this because it means I am going towards that crisis. I haven't yet stopped it, and it's getting more and more and more intense. Let me tell you, it's easier to stop the process when you're in the early warning stages. To step in and do something different is easier than it is in the advanced because you're entrenched in it. You are in the middle of this crisis and acting on it, right? So advanced signs could be something like crying uncontrollably for no reason. That's one could be for sadness or depression. Crying uncontrollably for no reason that I know, right? Hallmark commercials kill me. Certain movies, certain things that make me sad can cause that cry, right? Refusing to be around others is another advanced warning sign. When we isolate, for many, there's a difference between isolating and solitude. Solitude is seek peace within ourselves when we have some time to be with ourselves, to feed ourselves, to take care of ourselves, to learn more about ourselves. Isolation is different. It's when we shut the world off. It's when I shut myself away from it. That's isolation, and it usually doesn't work for me. It usually doesn't work for me. Oh, Eric says for his warning signs that he sweats profusely. Absolutely. Absolutely. Our body changes. It reacts. We may shut down completely or have a meltdown. This is the intense part. And everybody's different. Remember? Everybody's different. When I get to the advanced warning signs, loud, because I'm loud and obnoxious. Those of you who know me know that. Those of you in my classes know that. I am loud and obnoxious all the time. Now, if I get to that advanced warning, I talk like this. Obviously, you don't know who you're talking to. I get quiet. Other people get loud. It's a change in our norm. I am not normally like this. So when I get into those advanced warning signs, I change dramatically. Really ourselves or other people, self-harm, harming others, don't care about staying safe. That's a big one. I'm just going to go over so-and-so, it'll be all right. Knowing that person doesn't have our best interests at heart. He doesn't appreciate our recovery. Well, I'm going to do so-and-so. I don't care. I'm just going to drink. Or I don't care. I'm just going to call so-and-so. All those things that we can do that put us out of a safe space can take us to that crisis. Significant change in abilities, refusing to eat, drink, or take medicine. When I shut down completely, right? And those are those advanced warning signs. The more I know about myself and the more my people know about me, my team, my entourage, my group, I am better off because I get more knowledge. When friends tell me, I've noticed that when you go to blank, 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 you change an awful lot. You get really dark. Or when you see so-and-so, or when you do so-and-so, or around the anniversary of a death. All these things contribute. And we walk through those phases from truth to slight change, early warning signs, to intense change, advanced warning signs, right? It's easier to stop it in the early warning signs than it is in the advanced, but however, it's possible. It's possible to nip it anywhere in the process. It's possible to stop those stages right where it is, so you don't have to go on and lose things. So I'm going to ask my crew out there, who makes you laugh? Who makes you laugh, right? Laughter is a powerful weapon, whether it's a professional comedian or just somebody you know, your coworkers, somebody that makes you laugh. That is an amazing coping skill. Humor changes us. It kicks us. It makes us feel better physically, mentally, and emotionally, right? Laughter is amazing. It really is. So who makes you laugh? I need to know that. You need to know that. So if it came down to it, you could do something to either think about that person that makes you laugh, or contact that person or to them on a show or a CD or whatever, that we have, that we can participate in laughter. That is the coolest thing. That is the coolest thing. I think it's funny. Laughing is a big remedy, is a big start to that process. Another thing is doing things that if we've got a hobby or a gift or a talent, right? Something that we do well, that we really enjoy doing, can be a help to us, because it shifts us, tracks us, right? I may be triggered and in those signs, but when I do this, when I play basketball, or I cook, or I crochet, or I do something, go walk, all these things can help me shift back. It can distract me because I feel better doing it. And it can take my mind off of whatever had triggered me. Distraction. Another one is, where do I feel safe? I need to have a safe place. Have a safe place that I can feel sure that nobody's going to hurt me and I'm not going to hurt myself. Right? That's a safe place to me. Where I know that, excuse me, where I know that it's all good. So I need to have a safe place today. I need to have a safe place. Oh, Sharon says, who makes us laugh? My daughter. When she's overtired, she just goes on and on talking nonsense nonstop. I love that. When I get tired, I get goofy too. What's it? Punchy. I get punchy. Meaning I am just so do strange things. Talk about. Okay. So another thing that is important is trust. Who do I trust? I need people. I need people in my world that I trust, that I can go to, that see what I need to hear. Right? So I need to have these people I can trust. Even if I trust someone just a little. Trust is hard to come by early in recovery. It's kind of hard to come by later on. Be careful. And when we trust somebody, we want to be able to give them our voice. We need to speak our voice to them. We need to speak our truth to them so that they can help us. They can help. Another thing is relaxing. Doing something that relaxes us when we're too intense. That can bring me down. Taking a bath, taking a walk. reading, watching a movie. All these things we can do. All these things we can do to feel better, to relax. All right, so we went over laughter, distraction activities, being in a safe environment, someone we trust, and learning how to relax when we're agitated, right? These are coping skills. You all have them. You have those 5. You got somebody makes you laugh, something you like to do, a place that you feel safe with somebody you trust, and you're able to relax sometimes. I want you to think about these things because they're all coping skills, right? They're all coping skills. We think meditation, all those things, exercise, those things are coping skills too. But we already have. I can't ever say that I don't have coping skills because I've made it so far. The coping skills that I had pre-recovery kept me alive. Alcohol kept me alive. Right? It kept me alive because it eased the pain enough to so I wouldn't harm myself. And we use coping skills. We use what we've got. And a lot of us didn't have a lot of education in our young lives or in our older lives on to how to cope, what to do in situations like that. So we learn our coping skills, and sometimes we've got to learn ones that are better, ones that have less consequences, right? Other coping skills. Deep breathing, telling yourself those affirmations work. Physical activity, we talked about writing and journaling. That's a big one. That's a really big one. Arts and crafts, meditation, we said. Puzzles, when my hands are busy, my brain is busy with what my hands are with, right? I can distract by doing something physical, like a puzzle. Music. Music is a great coping skill. Well, what we said music was a bad choice. A coping skill is a coping skill is something that we do, something that we choose to do that changes us. If I've been triggered in a negative way, somebody calls me that name, I go and listen to some music. I can be triggered back into a safe place, into a more beneficial place for me, right? So music is powerful. Think of that song that just soothes your heart, that song that gets us excited about the day. I have 3 songs I listen to every day, and they help me get pumped up for work. They just set the tone that helps me get in the frame of mind that I need to be in, right? Music is powerful. Different friends, spending time with friends is a big one. Pets, we've got reading as well. I love those coping skills, and I just have them with me so that if I get into advanced warning signs, my brain shuts down. I need to have something to grab a hold of, literally put my hands on, that can help pull me out of there. Sharon says she agrees her hands need to be in motion too. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I talk about this a lot in all the classes, well, some of the classes, but I've got a wellness toolbox at my house, and it is full of things that help me shift back into a more beneficial space. Things like funny movies, pictures of people I love, cards and letters, chocolate kicks up the happy juices. What else do I have in there? CDs of music that I love. Different toys. different things that can, when I pick them up, when my brain shuts off and I go into that box and I pick up this funny movie, I can go, okay, I can do this. Let me turn it on. Let me get to a place where I feel better. Right? I can have a list of movies on Netflix or Hulu or wherever and find those movies that make me feel better. You can have a list of things to do. Go for a walk. That's worked before. Call and so that's worked before. And in my wellness toolbox, I've got a list of names with phone numbers because I have dropped my phone in water, but it makes it real inconvenient when you want to call somebody, because the only two numbers I remember now are my mom's and my home number, and neither one of those will bail me out of prison or bail me out of jail. So I need to know some other numbers. So I've got them written down so I know them, so I can go to them if something happens. If I'm stuck on a landline, those numbers I can call somebody. I can call somebody. So the next part is the crisis phase. We're going to go through this kind of quickly because we're short on time. Consequences of crisis or emergency. Change in quality of life, loss of skills and supports. Could be a change in our independence, loss of opportunities to make decisions, right? Change in environment. We might end up at the hospital or jail. Change in relationships. We may lose people. We may burn bridges during a crisis. Change of level or type of service that we receive. Just say I was good and I had a peer support system, and then I was triggered and I went into a crisis, and now I've got a whole ACT team. I've got a whole group of people that are helping me because of the intensity of my crisis. And those are things I can lose. I can lose that freedom. I can lose those opportunities. I can lose those relationships. So I want to be aware of things that I can lose when I go into crisis, because that can motivate me to do something in the warning signs phase, right? All right. A crisis can make us feel like life is spinning out of control. Remember, I didn't make this up. You may not be able to understand people. You may be unable to talk, do daily living tasks, take up for yourself, or stop a meltdown. We may have to get extra help in order to take care of our safety, the safety of others, and to stop a crisis before it becomes an emergency. The difference between crisis and an emergency. In a crisis, we still have the ability to make choices. I still have that self-decision that I can decide, do I want to continue this process, or do I want to do something that's going to shift me back into a better space? All right. So, crisis, we have choice. Emergency, 911 is called. When the police show up, who makes the decisions? The police. When the ambulance shows up, who makes the decisions? The EMTs, right? We lose that ability to when it goes into an emergency. So the crisis is awful. We want to stop it before it goes into a 911 situation, right? Because that definitely doesn't work for us. Definitely. So with the help of other people, we can get back in. That's the goal, to get back into control of what's going on in my life, of base. I want to get back in control of my emotions, my mind, my body. And sometimes that's difficult, but we can do it with the help of other people. All right, the last part is the recovery phase. The recovery phase is when crisis is past and life is returning to normal. This is a time to look at how crisis has changed our lives. Right? So we eventually do recover. We eventually get to a better space to make decisions, to do things. we eventually settle down, right? If I go into crisis and my advanced warning signs are, aggressing towards someone, and I get arrested, I will eventually calm down in that jail cell, right? I can't stay that wound up forever. I will eventually calm down. I may still, but physically I am calming. So recovery does come. And at this point, at this phase of the crisis process, the recovery phase is when we at what worked and what didn't work, how we reacted, the coping that helped us, the people that stepped in, right? If your cousin Sam always said, I'm here for you no matter what, call me, and you go into a crisis and call Sam and he is nowhere to be found and want anything to do with this situation, mark him off your list to be called. Mark him off your list. He's not the one. Going someplace may not work. We need to know what has helped us and what hasn't helped us, right? So we can be more effective the next time we're triggered, right? If I try meditation and it doesn't work, I want to try something different, right? And every trigger, an early and advanced warning sign, may have its own activity to bring us back to recovery, right? It may be, if wound up physically, I may need to take a walk or do some other kind of exercise. If I'm wound up emotionally, I may want to call a friend. These things are ways that we get back into the recovery. So at that point, not only do we be down, but we get to identify what was beneficial and what wasn't. So the next time I've got more information, right? Crisis is not the end, it's a new beginning. It really is a new beginning. It is to celebrate after the fact, because we often change dramatically and for the good. So I hope you understand the reason for going over crisis. It's been a rough year. Been a lot of triggers out there for me anyway. And I wanted to go over this process to help us understand that we all do it the same way. Trigger, early warning sign, advanced warning sign, going into crisis and recovery, right? Process is the same for everyone. Let's see, we're about out of time. So, you got anything? I want to thank you all, Sharon and Eric, Darlene, Kim, Roberta, all y'all for being here today and helping me out. It helps. It helps. So I thank you. I will see you next week on recovery education, in recovery education class at 10 o'clock on Tuesdays. I know what day it is and what time. Welcome, Sharon. It's good to know this stuff, because if I know more about me, I can avoid or adapt. Right? All right, go out there and have a fabulous Tuesday, and we'll see you later.